Hi team, this is Joseph. Okay, last week we talked about the importance of driving true transformation, moving someone and moving your organizations from a compliance to commitment. Well, when you think about that as a strategy, a lot of that still is focused around leveraging momentum, as we talked about, in really empowering others to capture your vision and execute and make it happen. But what I want to talk to you today about is something more personal. What is the habits that you need to form as an individual leader to be able to help and drive and be much more successful at executing your business transformation or your initiatives in your organization? So I'm going to start off with a story. I happened to grow up in a lovely family, a great family. My parents have been married for well over 40 plus years. And at the time when I was growing up, I wasn't a timeout generation kid. Some of you can relate to that. I had a lot of love in my family, but discipline was really important. And so we had just gotten this television at the time, and it was a kind where it had the remote, or you could actually physically go to the TV and turn channels. And I remember my dad had spent a lot of time getting the remote to work and everything. And he told me, he said, Joseph, if you want to change the channel, do not change the channel on the TV, use the remote, right? Use the remote. We got cable, because the TV's got to be changed to channel 3, and if it's not on 3, then the cable remote won't work, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So I come home from school, and there's my mom, and she wants to watch a television show, and she says, Joseph, yes ma'am, I want you to change the channel. So I'm like trying to figure out, she goes, no, just go to the TV and change the channel. Now remember, my dad clearly told me not to change the TV channel and to only change the remote. And when your dad tells you to do something, remember, this is not a timeout generation type of family. If you don't do that, there are consequences. So I'm in here saying, oh no, I am not gonna turn that channel. So I'm trying to do the remote. My mom is getting upset. Just walk to the TV, boy. If you don't get up and walk to that TV and change that channel, I'm gonna tear you up. Okay, so right when that happens, my dad hears a commotion. He walks in. Home from work, comes upstairs, he walks in, he goes, what's going on? What's going on? And so I explained to my dad, hey, listen, mom is trying to change the channel, but you were very clear and told me what not to change the channel. She's telling me to go to the TV and change the channel. Manually, as opposed to using remote control. So my dad walked over to the TV, changed the channel manually, and didn't touch the remote control. And then he said, Joseph, let me talk to you. And so he took me downstairs. We had a townhome. He took me downstairs, and he said, let me explain something to you. He said, if your mother tells you to jump off a bridge, when I come home, you better be wet. And what that lesson means to me is all things can be important. Was it important to listen to my dad about changing remote control? Yeah, it was. But all things are not equal. All things are important, but they are not equal. This is a lesson that many leaders in the digital age struggle with. We have a compressed and incredible amount of priorities, a tremendous amount of priorities. They all seem very, very important. And we don't have the habit of being able to articulate which things really matter, which things are most important, because we're fearful that if you put something in a priority list, it means that it's not important. So let me give you a practical guide or a practical way upon which to do that I think is very, very helpful. I use this once a week. You might do it every other day when you start out, but this is the first habit. And this is a 2x2 matrix. You can call it the Bradley matrix if you want to. I named it after my dad. It's pretty simple. I've been using this my whole career, and it's a 2x2 matrix, okay? And the purpose is to be clear that all things are not important. All things are important, but they are not equal. So across the horizontal axis, very simple. Is the amount of effort that requires. Is it difficult or is it easy? Across the vertical axis is the level of impact. Is it low or high? So as you look at this matrix in the upper right hand corner, those are things that are very easy to do and give you a lot of value. Those are no-brainers, which are probably no-brainers. If you stay on that high axis, those things that are hard to do but require a lot, but then generate a lot of value, those are worth the efforts. No-brainers, worth the efforts. Then you go to the far right. These are things that are easy to do, but don't give you a lot of value. Those are excess capacity or easy wins. We talked about this in our last one, a 1-2-3 model. The ability to quickly generate a win. There you go, easy wins. And then in the lower left-hand corner, those are things that you should reconsider, right? A tremendous amount of work and not that much value. Okay, so here's the trick. When you first do this, everything's gonna end up in the upper right or the upper left. It's gonna be one of those two. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick something, whether it's a no-brainer that's obvious, one of them that there's no argument in your mind, you understand it's a no-brainer, or you can also choose one where it's worth the effort. Those are typically the two boxes that dominate the matrix. And then I want you to rate every other activity relative to that one. So every activity that you have, I want you to rate relative to that one. And I want you to force 25, 25, 25. I found throughout my career that if you force 25, 25, 25, it's a natural way to cause you to have a very, very clear prioritization in your mind as you think about that matrix. It's a very, very clear. And what you can do then is, if you have an admin or if you're a visual person like myself, is once you categorize things in terms of worth the effort, no-brainer, excess capacity, and reconsider, you can color code your calendar visually. You can't see what you're working on. It's hard to cheat it. You can color code your Outlook calendar based on the activities that you are working on that fall into one of those four categories. So it's very easy to see when you look at your calendar, are you working on the activities that are driving the most value for you? Again, all things are important, but they are not equal. So that matrix that we just talked about is something that I do once a week. It's a habit for me. You got to commit to it. Here's the thing. In the businesses that I work for, Cisco example, PowerPoint is a primary medium of communication, so I put it in PowerPoint. If you want to have that matrix, you can put it in Google Keeps if you like it. If you like OneNote, whatever your method is, whatever your method of recording notes, use that because you want it to be fluid. There's going to be new ideas that come to you and you just want to pop them in that matrix. Then at the end of the day, you can review that, or the beginning of your morning, you can review that and make changes. So the trick is, pick one that you know, that you 100% agree with, you understand what category is in, and then balance that against all the other priorities to ensure that you have 25, 25, 25. Very, very important. These can change. You can shift them as you want to, but you got to make sure you balance it. The second thing we talked about was visualization. As a leader, it's really, really hard to, especially in the world where you're getting hit with so many different things during the day, so many different activities, people, one-on-ones with people, physical, virtual, different activities that come in your mind, thoughts. You have a lot of stuff, right? You're in the information age. It is so important that you build this as a habit. And one way to build it as a habit is to make sure on your calendaring device that you look at, we look at our cell phone every 10 seconds, the latest stat. On that calendaring device, you're able to see visually what are the areas that you are working on, okay, that are most important. All right, so that's a tool you can use. Again, all things are important, but they are not equal. Remember that, and I think as you will see, as you can build that habit of being physically able to prioritize those activities and be able to stick to that prioritization, you will see that you will be able to drive and make some extra value. Last thing, let's talk about applying this into a real world concept. So we talked about all things important, they're not equal. Well, what's an example? Okay, I see this happen all the time, and I'm in a services industry. So working with digital and IoT and AI and machine learning, and you got a whole host of proof of concepts or POCs, and people are trying to figure out where can they start, where they drive the most value, right? And invariably, with all these initiatives, they'll say, hey, we have to drive some financial output, right? So let's start. That's our most important thing. Remember, all things important. We got to talk about shareholder value or some kind of financial output. And then if they're really smart, they'll say, oh, but it's all about the customer. It's got to be about the customer. Let me be clear when I say this, because I don't want people saying that Joseph is saying shareholder value is not important, or Joseph is saying that customers are not important. That's not what I'm saying at all. Let me be 100% clear though. Shareholder value is very important. Customers are very important. But if you are talking about designing a service, you're in a professional services organization, you're delivering something as a service, the equation for value in order of importance, remember, all things are important, but they're not equal, is as follows. You take care of your employees. They take care of your customers, and your customers take care of your financials. So if you're thinking about a list of priorities, a list of events, and you're trying to understand what areas do I prioritize as being more important, which one I think will generate highest value, I will tell you that you need to start with the ability for your employees to be able to adopt, understand, be trained on, and implement. This is so often left out of all the analysis. It's always towards the end. In fact, most times it's not even considered in the equation of technology deployment. It's always let's talk about customers, let's talk about financials, and then somewhere when you've already made a decision and you're trying to get it, then let's go train some employees. Then let's figure out how we're going to train them and then let's talk to them how we're going to get it done. It's always left to the end. If you're in a digital age and you're talking about rolling IoT services, I'm going to tell you, the biggest barrier ain't security. IT people, we love talking about security. That is not the biggest barrier. Is it a barrier? Yes. Is it important? Yes. Extremely important. All is important, but they are not equal. Any value for any type of adoption that you're trying to do with technology, anyone, all has to do with the value of that technology, what it generates, times its what? Adoption. How well it's adopted. How well is it taken up in the market? I am telling you that the key to adoption is your employees. If your employees don't understand it, they can't articulate the value, they're not behind it, they can't execute on it, it requires a tremendous change to their workflow behavior, all those things. If you haven't focused in on that, you're gonna have a suboptimal solution. No matter if you think it's a success, it would have been 10 times more successful if you would have adopted and thought about that in the beginning. So here's a clear, again, very clear way to think about the 2x2 matrix. If I were thinking about that and I'm deploying something, I would tell you that thinking through the case of an employee is actually not that difficult to think through in terms of workflow and its impact on employees. And the amount of value it can generate is extremely high. It is one of the biggest no-brainers that are often misplaced when you think about technology deployment. So we'll end with this. Take care of your customers, take care of your employees. They take care of your customers, and your customers take care of your financials. Okay? Really simple. Take care of your employees, they take care of your customers, and your customers drive your financials. All right. Hope you enjoyed this week. You guys have a great weekend upcoming, and we'll talk to you next week. See you later.